With the Canadian Grand Prix now being officially over and Max Verstappen picking up yet another victory in the 2023 season, it is now time to look ahead to the next Grand Prix, which happens to be the Austrian Grand Prix out at the Red Bull Ring. Last year when Formula One headed out to the Red Bull Ring, we saw the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc getting the job done there. But the year is 2023, and Ferrari is light years behind the competition. Mercedes is way better, Aston Martin is even more better, and Red Bull is unstoppable at this point in time. And I believe Charles Leclerc, I can say this with much confidence, is not going to win the Austrian Grand Prix, but who will? And today I am here to go over that, and it's going to be a very fun one, so on to the intro we go.
I'm Chase Briscoe, driver number 14 Ford Mustang for Stewart Haas Racing, and you're watching William Blackwell on YouTube.
At this point in time, I am completely convinced that Max Verstappen in the 2023 season is going to win every single Grand Prix besides the two he's already lost, which happens to be the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix and the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, which he finished second into his teammate Sergio Perez in both Grand Prix. But saying that though, he's going to win out and easily win his third Drivers' World Championship. And Red Bull as a whole is probably going to win the Constructors' Championship depending on how well Perez does from here on out. But saying that all, Verstappen, Max Verstappen that is going to win the Austrian Grand Prix for Red Bull Racing. And it will be the team's 101st Grand Prix victory after the 100th overall win for the team came in Montreal, the most recent Grand Prix. Second place, though, is going to be Fernando Alonso. If there is one or two drivers on the grid that is capable of chasing down the Red Bulls, it happens to be Fernando Alonso. He is heating it up right now, and I believe by the end of the year, he is going to be comfortably in second place in the points. And right now, he's 9 points, I believe it is, behind Sergio Perez. So I believe he's going to open up a big gap once he passes him in the points, and it's going to be a big deal for him. And just one interesting fact or nugget, if you will, if it wasn't for Fernando Alonso and they had a bad teammate at Aston Martin that was inconsistent like Lance Stroll, at the best, they will be in sixth place in the Constructors' battle. Lance Stroll has 37 points. At Aston Martin, what are you doing? You got to move on at some point in time. I know Lawrence Stroll is practically the team CEO / owner, if you will. Lance is holding them back. And they're going to lose the Constructors' battle to Mercedes, I believe, for second place if things keep on going the way they are. Fernando Alonso is pretty much putting the team on his back, which is something you kind of don't really see often because Fernando is always paired up alongside great teammates like an Aston Martin, Esteban Ocon. And a long time ago in McLaren, he was paired up with Lewis Hamilton. He's always paired up with a good driver. And right now, he's kind of having it odd, like a little odd scenario. But yeah, Fernando Alonso coming in second. I just wanted to point that out. Third place is going to be George Russell after he had a terrible weekend out at the Canadian Grand Prix where he was up front, like fourth place, I believe it was, chasing down Alonso and Hamilton for second. Next thing you know, he hit a curb and hit the wall, pretty much bent his rear end axle. He came back onto the track, but wasn't really competitive at all because he was stuck in a DRS train and he wasn't passing nobody. And eventually the brake system got worse and worse and he had to ultimately retire from the Grand Prix. But he's going to get on the podium this weekend in Austria. Fourth place is going to be Carlos Sainz, and I believe Carlos Sainz was dead wrong in the Canadian Grand Prix by his team because Charles Leclerc had a terrible qualifying effort. So did Carlos Sainz, but who still managed to make it to Q3. He was up, and next thing you know, Leclerc got by him, and Ferrari told Carlos Sainz to not pass him or contest his position at all. And if you look at it from the way I do, you're looking like Carlos Sainz is higher up in the points than Charles Leclerc. And obviously you're trying to go as a team to maximize your result. But though, you're going to have to favor the driver that's higher up in the points battle because who knows? Say something happened to Verstappen, Alonso, Perez, Hamilton, Russell. You get the point though. Like it's probably not going to happen, but there's always that chance and you want to be the first to capitalize on their mistakes, and Carlos Sainz just lost a couple of points because Ferrari was not allowing him to race against his teammate Charles Leclerc. So I believe it ain't going to make a difference, but who knows? It may have down the road. So I think he's going to have a great rebound after a terrible weekend in Canada, and he will come home in 4th place, which is a position he's not going to be satisfied in, but though you looking back at previous races, they would take it gladly. 5th place is going to be Lewis Hamilton. That's going to be a big disappointment. I just believe the Aston Martin and the Red Bull are going to be light years ahead. Austria and Canada happens to be 2 tracks the Mercedes cars have never been really competitive at all in the past few years. So I don't know, time will tell there, but I believe it's going to be another rough weekend. But for the bright side of things, for Mercedes, they got Silverstone coming up, and that is a track they're going to be very competitive at. They're going to be up front, probably contending for the race win. And it's going to be interesting to see how things go there, but we still get the Austrian Grand Prix to talk about. 6th place is going to be Charles Leclerc, your 2022 Grand Prix winner. Moving down to 7th place will be Esteban Ocon, who I believe is going to have a solid weekend. He's going to be the best of the rest, if you will, in 7th place. So there you go there. Sergio Perez in 8th place. He's going to struggle. I believe his time, unfortunately, is starting to wind down. Even though he has 2 Grand Prix wins earlier this year out in Saudi Arabia and out in Azerbaijan, since then he has struggled big time. And the more he continues to struggle on and carry on with these bad results, I believe them wins are starting to become less and less valuable, if you will, when it comes to looking at to keep him or not. And you got drivers and like Yuki Tsunoda, who's also in line. Liam Lawson. I'm telling you, Paris' seat right now is not hot, but it's getting there. I promise you, if he keeps on with this, with a bad result in Austria, his time is starting to wind down. 9th place is going to be Pierre Gasly, who had a terrible outing in Canada, hoping to rebound it and turn things around, which I believe he will. He's got a great and phenomenal team. At the end of the day, I believe he made the best decision when it comes to moving teams in last offseason from AlphaTauri to Alpine. I think it's going to work out, but he does have a little bit of a bad mindset right now. He's got to get good with it. I believe this upcoming summer break, which is coming up in a couple of Grand Prix, is going to be a big deal for him and the team as they will rejuvenate and get set for the final part of the season. All right, finishing out in 10th place will be Alexander Albon, also known as Alex Albon. He's going to have another phenomenal weekend with his new upgrades with the Williams machine. James Vowell is building a championship car. I'm telling you, folks, give it 2 to 3 years. They're going to be in the midfield. In about 5 years, they're going to be up front. Mark my word. 11th place, Valtteri Bottas, who had a phenomenal weekend out in Canada. A lot of people entering that race were criticizing Bottas for underperforming and getting beat by Zhou Guanyu on a consistent basis. He pretty much shut up the haters in Canada. 12th place is going to be Kevin Magnussen in the Haas. Haas. All right. 13th will be Lando Norris. 14th place will be Yuki Tsunoda, who had a very disappointing Canadian Grand Prix. 15th, Nico Hülkenberg. 16th place, Oscar Piastri, who I believe is going to struggle, but McLaren as a whole is going to struggle here. They used to be good here, but I just don't have much confidence in their new car right now. The upgrades that were supposed to change the car and make them real competitive hasn't really worked out at all. I'm not a big believer right now for McLaren, and I believe their team principal situation, I just don't agree with it at all. They rushed that decision, even though Andreas Seidel left him pretty much out of the blue. I'm sure they knew deep down that something was going to happen with Audi and Andreas Seidel, but I believe they made a premature decision and went after it like right away. They should did their homework and research on a new team principal, and they rushed it, and look at them now. They're just light years behind the pack, and it's not looking good for them. You thought they had the car. They thought they were coming back in 2020 and 2021, but 2022 with the new regs was around, boom, they're right in the back of the pack like they were at the start. All right, 17th place, Zhou Guanyu. 18th, Nick DeVries. 19th, Lance Stroll, who's going to struggle yet again. 20th is going to be Logan Sargent. And remember, folks, Logan Sargent, I believe, is going to finish dead last, but it is something to point out that he does have the old Williams car. He don't have the new upgrades like Alexander Albon does, but he will have them in Silverstone, which is going to be the team's home Grand Prix, and it's going to be pretty much majority of Formula One teams' home Grand Prix. So expect teams to put a lot of effort into them cars, and it's going to be a stacked race there. But for now, we got the Austrian Grand Prix. We got Verstappen winning, Fernando Alonso in second, George Russell in third. Taking home the fastest lap will be Pierre Gasly. The weather right now, it's hard to predict. We're a little over a week and a half out. Getting my words tied up here, folks. But the weather, big unknown. Sprint weekend also. It's going to be a fun weekend. I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks after the Austrian Grand Prix. Please like and subscribe.